The air inside Charlotte Douglas International Airport that Thursday night in late November was thick with the smell of coffee, pretzels, and exhausted travelers dragging suitcases toward their gates. Leah Thompson stood near the departure drop-off in her camel coat, holding the tiny hand of her 7-year-old son Elijah while her husband Nathan finished one last phone call 10 feet away. Nathan looked every inch the successful man the world believed him to be. Navy Tom Ford suit perfectly tailored, white shirt crisp enough to cut glass, Italian leather briefcase in one hand, the other waving goodbye to some business associate on the screen of his phone. To every stranger walking past, they were the perfect American family. The handsome real estate developer, the beautiful stay-at-home mom who used to be a pediatric nurse, and the quiet little boy with the big brown eyes who never caused trouble at school. Neighbors in Summerwood called them the Thompsons who have it all. Leah herself had started to believe the lie, until tonight. Nathan ended the call, flashed that megawatt smile that once made her heart skip, walked over, and knelt down in front of Elijah. He ruffled the boy's curls and said in that warm, practiced voice, "You take care of mommy while daddy's in Miami, okay, champ? I'll bring you something really cool from the beach." Elijah only nodded, his little fingers squeezing Leah's hand harder than usual. Nathan stood, pulled Leah in for a long hug that looked loving to anyone watching, kissed her forehead, whispered, "3 days and I'm back, babe. Love you both," and then he turned and walked toward the TSA line without looking back. Leah watched the back of his perfect suit disappear into the crowd, and for a moment everything felt normal. She took a deep breath, looked down at her sleepy son, and said softly, "Come on, baby, let's go home and get you to bed." They started walking toward the parking deck, the sound of their footsteps echoing on the polished floor, the automatic glass doors sliding open to let in the cold Carolina night air, when suddenly Elijah stopped dead in his tracks. His whole body went stiff. He yanked her hand so hard she almost stumbled. Leah crouched down immediately, worried he was about to be sick or have one of his rare asthma attacks, but when she looked into his eyes, she saw something far worse than sickness. She saw pure terror. His bottom lip trembled, tears already gathering, and in the smallest whisper you can imagine he said the words that would burn their old life to the ground. "Mommy, please, don't go back home tonight. Daddy is doing something really, really bad to us." Leah's first instinct was to laugh it off the way she always did when Elijah's imagination ran wild, because 7-year-olds say dramatic things all the time, don't they? But the look on his face stopped her cold. She pulled him to the side, away from the river of travelers, knelt on the hard airport floor in her heels, and cupped his cheeks with both hands. "Baby, what are you talking about?" she asked, voice soft, trying to keep the panic out of it. Elijah glanced around like he was afraid the walls themselves were listening, then leaned in so close his breath tickled her ear and whispered everything he had heard that very morning while she was still asleep. He had woken up thirsty, padded barefoot down the hallway in his Spider-Man pajamas, and paused outside Nathan's locked office door because he heard Daddy's angry voice, the one he only used when he thought no one was around. Elijah pressed his ear to the wood and heard Nathan say, "No, tonight is the night. They'll both be asleep by 11. You've got the spare key I gave you. Make sure it looks like an electrical fire, something accidental. I'll be on a plane to Miami, perfect alibi. After the insurance pays out, I'll finally be free of this whole mess." Elijah didn't understand every word, but he understood enough to be terrified. He ran back to bed and pretended to sleep when Leah came to kiss him good morning, and he had carried that fear inside his little chest the entire day, waiting for the right moment to tell her. Leah listened to every word, and with every sentence her heart beat faster because pieces of a puzzle she had refused to acknowledge for years suddenly snapped into place. The brand new life insurance policy for $3 million that Nathan had insisted on. The way he transferred the house title into his name only last year. The sudden anger whenever she talked about going back to work. The nights he locked himself in the office until 4 a.m. The whispered phone calls she pretended not to hear. She looked into her baby's eyes and made the choice right there on the airport floor. Tonight she would believe her son. The drive home was silent except for the soft hum of the Range Rover's engine and the occasional sniffle from the back seat. Leah didn't take the direct route. Instead of pulling into their circular driveway with the 3-car garage and the basketball hoop Elijah never used, she turned 2 streets early, cut the headlights, and eased the SUV into a dark spot between 2 giant oak trees on a parallel road. From there they had a perfect, hidden view of the front of their 2-story brick colonial, the house that was on the cover of Charlotte Living magazine last year because of Nathan's perfect family. The porch light was on a timer, glowing warmly like it was waiting for them to come home safe. Leah turned the engine off and whispered, "We're just going to sit here for a little while, okay? Just to make sure everything's safe." Elijah nodded, clutching his stuffed dinosaur to his chest, eyes never leaving the house. 10:17 p.m. became 10:40, became 11:05. Leah was starting to feel ridiculous, starting to think maybe she had let a child's nightmare take over her common sense, when a dark blue panel van with no license plates and blacked-out windows turned slowly onto Maple Crescent. It crawled past every mailbox after mailbox like a shark looking for prey, then stopped directly in front of their house. Leah's breath caught in her throat. 2 men wearing black hoodies and gloves stepped out. One of them reached into his pocket and pulled out a key. Not a lockpick. Not a crowbar. A house key. He slid it into the front door as smoothly as if he lived there. They disappeared inside. Leah sat frozen, unable to move, unable to breathe, until the smell hit her nostrils through the cracked window, sharp, chemical, unmistakable gasoline. First, there was only the faint orange flicker behind the living room curtains, the kind you might mistake for candlelight if you didn't know better. Then the flicker grew into a glow, and the glow became flames, licking at the windows like hungry tongues. Within minutes, the entire first floor was lit up from the inside, windows bursting outward from the heat, black smoke pouring into the perfect suburban night. Leah watched her home, the home where she brought Elijah home from the hospital, where she rocked him to sleep every night for the first 2 years, where she hung his finger paintings on the refrigerator. She watched it all become an inferno. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder, but they might as well have been on another planet. Elijah was crying silently, face pressed against the window, little fists clenched around his dinosaur. Leah's phone buzzed in the cup holder. A text from Nathan, time-stamped from Miami. Just landed safe. Hope my 2 favorite people are sleeping tight. Miss you already, Red Heart, can't wait to hug you both Sunday. The heart emoji felt like a slap. She realized in that moment that while she and Elijah sat hidden in the dark watching their life burn, Nathan was probably sipping champagne in first class, celebrating the success of his perfect murder. She leaned over the seat and threw up into an empty Starbucks cup, tears and bile mixing together, while her 7-year-old stroked her hair and whispered, "It's okay, Mommy. You believed me. We're safe." Leah drove through the empty Charlotte streets with the headlights off for the last 3 blocks, so no one would notice the white Range Rover pulling up to the little brick building on 7th Street that looked more like an old bookstore than a law office. The sign was so faded you could barely read M. Brooks, Legal Services, in peeling gold letters. Leah's hands shook so badly on the steering wheel that she had to park twice. Elijah was finally asleep against the window, tear tracks dried on his cheeks, dinosaur still clutched to his chest. Leah scooped him up, his head heavy on her shoulder, and walked to the front door with legs that felt made of water. She didn't even have to knock. The door opened before her knuckles touched the wood, and there stood a woman who looked like she had been waiting her whole life for this exact moment. 60-something, silver locks pulled into a low bun, wearing flannel pajamas under a long trench coat, reading glasses hanging from a chain, eyes that had seen every kind of hell a woman can live through and still somehow managed to stay kind. She took one look at Leah's soot-streaked face and the sleeping child and said, in a voice like warm tea with honey, "Come in. Baby girl, you're safe now. Nobody's gonna hurt you tonight." She locked the door behind them with 4 separate deadbolts, each click sounding like a promise. The office smelled of old paper, strong coffee, and something that reminded Leah of her grandmother's kitchen. Marlene Brooks guided her to a worn leather couch, made Elijah a nest of blankets and pillows on the couch, tucked him in like he was her own grandchild, then handed Leah the biggest mug of coffee she had ever seen and said, "Sit down, lock your knees so you don't fall." And start talking from the very first second you started feeling something was wrong, because I already know the ending and we have work to do before sunrise." Marlene listened without interrupting once while Leah poured out 8 years of marriage in one long, broken sentences. The perfect proposal in front of the Biltmore fountain, the wedding every magazine wanted to feature. The slow way Nathan chipped away at her friendships until her world was only him, the way he smiled for cameras but never asked how her day was when the lights were off, the life insurance, the house title, the locked office, the burner phone. The fire she had just watched. Swallow every photograph of Elijah's first steps. When Leah finally ran out of words and tears, Marlene stood up slowly, walked to a locked fireproof cabinet older than Leah herself, turned the key, and pulled out a thick manila folder with Leah's maiden name written in her father's shaky handwriting. Carter/Thompson, for Leah if I'm gone. Inside were 3 years of private investigator reports, bank statements highlighted in yellow, photos of Nathan at underground poker clubs in Atlanta, loan shark contracts with interest rates that made Leah's stomach turn, and a final page that listed every asset Nathan had quietly drained, including the $250,000 trust fund Leah's mother left her when she died of cancer. At the very bottom was the life insurance rider that paid triple indemnity in case of accidental death by fire. Marlene closed the folder gently and said, "Your daddy hired me the day he found out he had 6 months to live. He looked me in the eye in that hospital room and said, 'My baby girl married a snake, and I won't be here to protect her when he finally bites. Promise me you'll watch over her.' I promised him, Leah. And tonight I'm keeping that promise." Leah sat there holding the folder like it weighed 1,000 pounds, realizing the man who raised her had seen the monster long before she ever did. The next morning, every local news station led with the same footage. Nathan Thompson arriving at the still-smoking ruins of his mansion in an Uber straight from the airport, falling to his knees in the ashes, clutching a child's burned teddy bear that firefighters said wasn't even from their house, screaming to the cameras, "My wife. My son. Somebody tell me they're okay." His performance was Oscar-worthy. Perfect tears, perfect trembling voice, perfect timing as he thanked the fire chief and asked if they had found the bodies yet. Reporters ate it up. Hashtag started trending. Hashtag pray for the Thompsons. Meanwhile, Leah and Elijah and Marlene sat on the office floor eating cereal out of coffee mugs watching the circus on a 13-inch TV from 1998. Elijah pointed at the screen and whispered, "Look, Mommy." His eyes are dry. He's pretending. Marlene muted the television, turned to Leah, and said, "Men like Nathan always come back to the crime scene to make sure the job is finished. When they don't find bodies today, he's going to start getting nervous. And nervous men make mistakes. We just have to stay invisible long enough for him to hang himself." Leah looked at her sleeping son on the couch and felt something inside her shifted from terror to cold, clear fury. She was done being the naive wife. She was a mother now, and mothers become dangerous when you threaten their babies. That night, the three of them dressed in black like burglars in a movie, black hoodies, gloves, tiny flashlights taped with red cellophane so the beams wouldn't carry far. Marlene knew a back way through the woods because she had once represented the developer in a messy divorce and knew every hidden gate in Summerwood. They waited until Nathan finally left the crime scene in a black town car looking exhausted for the cameras, then slipped through the darkness that still smelled of smoke and chemicals. The house was a blackened skeleton, caution tape flapping in the wind, moonlight shining through the places where the roof used to be. Leah's heart pounded so hard she was sure the police cruiser parked down the street could hear it, but Marlene whispered, "Keep moving, baby. We've got 20 minutes tops." They crawled through the kitchen door that hung off its hinges, the smell of burned plastic and melted memories making Leah gag behind her mask. Elijah tugged her sleeve and whispered, "This way, Mommy. I know where Daddy hides the real secrets." He led them up the half-collapsed staircase like he had done it 100 times in his nightmares, straight to Nathan's office where the fire had mysteriously burned less fiercely. Under a loose floorboard Elijah knew about because he used to hide there when Nathan yelled, they found the motherlode, a black ledger with names and dollar amounts, 2 burner phones still at 40% battery, a spare passport with Nathan's photo, but a different name. and a spiral notebook whose last page read in Nathan's handwriting, "Final solution. House fire. Thanksgiving weekend. Both gone. $3 million clean. Rico gets $60,000. Miami alibi solid." Leah stared at the words, "both gone," written about her and her baby, and felt her soul turn to ice. They were almost out, backpack stuffed with evidence, when two flashlight beams sliced through the dark hallway and heavy boots crunched on broken glass. The same two men from the van were back, voices low and angry, saying the boss wanted confirmation the job was finished. Leah grabbed Elijah and pulled him into the walk-in closet, pressing him behind her body, hand over his mouth so his terrified breathing wouldn't give them away. Through the slats, she watched one man sweep the office with his light, stop on the open floorboard, curse under his breath, and say, "Somebody's been here." "Look, small footprints in the ash," kid-sized. The second man pulled out his phone and said, "I'm calling the boss. This changes everything." Leah's heart stopped because she knew the boss meant Nathan. If they told him she and Elijah were alive, he would disappear forever or send worse men next time. She closed her eyes, ready to surrender to protect her son, when suddenly a blood-curdling scream ripped through the night outside. A woman's scream, raw and terrified. The men bolted downstairs, guns drawn. Marlene's voice. Leah realized later, Marlene had screamed on purpose to save them. Leah scooped Elijah, ran down the burning stairs, through the kitchen, across the backyard, over the fence, lungs burning, tears freezing on her cheeks in the November air, until they collapsed into Marlene's arms on the other side of the wall. They drove away with the evidence that would destroy Nathan forever. Back in the office at 4 a.m., Marlene's tech guy unlocked the burner phones while Leah rocked a sleeping Elijah on the couch. The text threads were a punch to the soul. "Nathan to Rico, make sure the kid doesn't suffer too much. Bad for optics if they ever find remains. Rico, extra $10K to make sure the boy's gone too. Nathan, do whatever it takes." Another thread with an unknown number. "If the wife fights back, hit her first, then the kid, then torch it." Leah read the words about her own child, and something inside her shattered and rebuilt itself at the same time. She was no longer the woman who apologized when Nathan raised his voice. She was no longer the woman who believed love meant staying quiet. She was a mother whose child had been marked for death by his own father, and that made her capable of anything. Marlene put a gentle hand on her shoulder and said, "Feel that rage, baby. We're going to use it." Marlene called the one detective in the entire city she trusted with her life, Detective Angela Harris, homicide, 25 years on the job, took no bribes, hated men who hurt women more than she hated anything else in the world. Angela arrived within 30 minutes, took one look at the ledger, the phones, the notebook, and the terrified little boy asleep on the couch, and said, "We're ending this today." The plan was simple and terrifying. Leah would agree to meet Nathan in public, wear a wire, let him talk, let him threaten, let him dig his own grave while 30 undercover officers waited in the wings. Nathan had been texting nonstop, "I know you're alive. Bring the notebook and come home. We can still fix this." When Leah finally replied, "Freedom Park Fountain, 10 a.m. Come alone," he answered in 8 seconds. "I'll be there, baby, I love you." Leah stared at those 3 words and felt nothing but disgust. Freedom Park at 10 a.m. was full of Saturday strollers, dog walkers, kids on scooters, perfect cover for 30 plainclothes officers pretending to read newspapers and sell hot dogs. Leah sat on a bench near the fountain in sunglasses and a baseball cap, heart monitor wired under her jacket, voice shaking but steady. Nathan arrived looking like he hadn't slept in days, clothes wrinkled, eyes red, carrying a single red rose like this was some romantic movie. He tried to hug her. She stepped back. He whispered, "Thank God you're okay. I was so scared," but his eyes kept darting to the backpack at her feet. When she didn't hug back, he dropped the act. Voice low and venomous, "You took things that don't belong to you. Give me the notebook and the phones and maybe, just maybe, I let you and the brat walk away." Leah looked him in the eye for the first time in years and said, "You were going to burn your own son alive for money." Nathan's mask shattered. He laughed, actually laughed, and said, That weird little kid was never mine anyway. Always staring, always watching, creepy little. The words were barely out of his mouth when Detective Harris's voice came through Leah's earpiece. "We have enough. Move in." Nathan saw the officers closing in and did the one thing no one expected. He ran straight at Leah, grabbed her by the throat, pulled a folding knife from his waistband, and pressed it against her neck hard enough to draw blood. "Back off, or I slit her throat right here," he screamed, dragging her backward toward the trees. Leah felt the warmth trickle down her collarbone, felt the eyes of 100 park-goers frozen in horror, felt Elijah watching everything on Marlene's phone feed 20 miles away, and in that moment she whispered the only thing that mattered. "You will not take him from me." Nathan hissed, "You ruined every," when a single crack split the air. Not a kill shot. A precision round from a rooftop sniper shattered Nathan's wrist. The knife fell. Leah dropped to the ground as officers swarmed him. He screamed, kicked, spat threats even while being cuffed. "This isn't over. You'll never be safe." But Leah stood up, wiped the blood from her neck, looked him dead in the eye, and for the first time in 8 years, she was the one smiling. 5 years have passed since the fire and the knife and the monster in the park. Leah is now attorney Leah Carter Brooks, full partner at Brooks and Associates, specializing in helping women and children escape the kind of hell she barely survived. She went back to school at night, passed the bar on her first try, and now stands in courtrooms wearing the same steel look she wore the day the sniper fired. Elijah is 12, tall, loud, building robots that win science fairs, wants to be an aerospace engineer so he can build something that takes people away from bad places. They live in a little blue house with yellow shutters that Leah bought with the fire insurance money. Nathan's plan backfired in the most beautiful way. Every year on the anniversary of the night Elijah whispered, "Don't go home," they light a single candle on the porch, not to mourn the house that burned, but to thank the little boy who saved them both. Leah ends every single support group meeting with the same words, and tonight she speaks them straight to you through the camera. If a terrified 7-year-old boy could find the courage to speak up when every adult in his world told him he was wrong. If he could save his mommy's life with nothing but a whisper in an airport, then you, yes, you watching this right now with tears in your eyes or fear in your heart, you are strong enough to leave tonight. You are worthy of safety. You are worthy of peace. You are worthy of a life that doesn't require you to sleep with one eye open. And you are never, ever alone. There is a Marlene waiting for you. There is a Leah who has walked your exact path waiting to take your call. There is a little Elijah inside your own child begging you to listen. Pick up the phone. Walk out the door. Speak your truth. Because the fire doesn't have to take you. You were born to rise from the ashes. The screen fades to black with only the candle burning on their new porch and the words, dedicated to every survivor still finding her voice. You are the hero of your own story. Comment your city below. Tell us you're safe tonight. We're here. After Nathan was dragged away in handcuffs that Saturday morning in Freedom Park, Leah stood in the middle of the grass with blood drying on her neck and strangers clapping like she was some kind of hero. But all she could feel was the earthquake inside her chest that happens when your entire reality collapses and rebuilds itself in the space of 10 seconds. Detective Angela Harris wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, led her to an unmarked car, and drove her and Elijah, who had watched everything on Marlene's phone feed, to a secret safe house on the edge of Lake Norman that the department kept for domestic violence survivors who were still in danger. The house was small, painted soft yellow, with a swing on the porch and the smell of fresh cookies because the last family who stayed there had baked thank-you treats for the officers. That first night Leah didn't sleep at all. She sat on the edge of Elijah's twin bed in a spare room decorated with glow-in-the-dark stars and watched him breathe, counting every exhale like it might be the last one Nathan could still steal from them. Around 3 a.m. Elijah woke up crying from a nightmare about fire, crawled into her lap even though he was getting too big for it, pressed his wet face into her neck, and whispered the sentence that healed something inside her forever, "Mommy." We don't have to be scared of the dark anymore, right? Because the monsters can't find us here. Leah kissed the top of his curly head and promised him, voice cracking, that the monsters were locked up now and that she would spend the rest of her life making sure no new ones ever got close again. Outside the window, the lake was black and calm, and the moon painted a silver road across the water, and for the first time in years, Leah felt something she had forgotten existed: safety. 3 days later, the story exploded across every news channel in America. Millionaire husband hires hitmen to burn wife and son alive for insurance money, caught on wiretap. Nathan's perfect face was everywhere. First in his expensive suit smiling at charity galas, then in orange jumpsuit and handcuffs being walked into the courthouse while reporters screamed questions he refused to answer. The headlines called him the monster of Summerwood. Old friends who had ghosted Leah for years suddenly flooded her burner phone with texts that all said the same thing: "We had no idea. We're so sorry. Please forgive us." Leah didn't answer a single one. Marlene taught her the power of silence. Instead, Leah sat with Detective Harris and the prosecutor for 12 straight hours, walking them through every page of the Black Ledger, every text and notebook until her voice was raw, until the prosecutor looked her in the eye and said, "Mrs. Thompson, with this evidence, he will never breathe free air again." That night, Leah stood on the safe house porch, looked up at a sky full of stars, and for the first time allowed herself to cry, not from terror, but from relief. Great heaving sobs that felt like 8 years of swallowed screams finally escaping, while Elijah slept inside dreaming of rockets instead of fire. The trial started 4 months later and lasted only 9 days because the evidence was airtight and Nathan's own arrogance became his final witness. The prosecutor played the park recording on loop for the jury, Nathan's cold voice saying that creepy little kid was always in the way, while Leah's blood dripped on the grass. They showed the jury photos of the melted dinosaur backpack found in the ruins, the one Elijah had left on the kitchen counter that night. They brought Rico the arsonist to the stand in shackles. He cried harder than anyone when he described Nathan paying him cash in a parking garage and saying, "Make sure there's nothing left to bury." Nathan's defense lawyer tried every trick: temporary insanity, gambling addiction, claims the texts were taken out of context, even tried to paint Leah as the mastermind who staged everything for sympathy. The jury laughed out loud. On day 9, the foreman stood up and read the verdict everyone already knew was coming: guilty on all 37 counts, life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus 2 consecutive 25-year sentences for good measure. The judge looked straight at Nathan and said, "Sir, you are the worst kind of predator, one who hides behind a smile and a suit." Leah did not attend the sentencing. She was too busy enrolling in night law school because she had decided that if the system could save her and Elijah, then she was going to spend the rest of her life making sure it saved every other woman and child still trapped. Exactly 10 years to the day after the fire, a plain white envelope arrived at the law firm with a return address from the state prison. Inside was a single sheet of prison stationery in Nathan's handwriting: "Leah, I think about you and Elijah every day. I was sick back then. I found God in here. I'm a changed man. I know I can never make it right, but I'm asking for forgiveness anyway. Maybe one day you could bring our son to visit so I can tell him I'm sorry to his face." Leah read the letter once, folded it neatly, walked to the firm's kitchenette, and dropped it into the shredder without a second thought. She didn't feel anger anymore. She didn't feel anything for the stranger who used to share her bed. She walked back to her office where Elijah, now 17, tall as his mother, wearing a NASA hoodie, was waiting with college acceptance letters spread across her desk like winning lottery tickets. He looked up and asked, "Everything okay, Mom?" Leah smiled the first real, unguarded smile she had smiled in a decade and said, "Everything is perfect, baby. Let's go celebrate. Dinner's on me." They walked out into the Charlotte sunshine together, mother and son, free. Tonight, Leah sits on the porch of the little blue house with the yellow shutters that she and Elijah painted together the summer he turned 10, the porch where they light one candle every year on the anniversary. The porch where Elijah asked her last month if he could start calling Marlene Nana because she's the closest thing to a grandma I've ever had. The sky is 12 years old now, but the candle still burns the same. Leah looks straight into the camera one last time and speaks directly to you, the person who has watched all 20 parts, the person who maybe is still living the nightmare she escaped. If you're watching this and your stomach is in knots because someone who says they love you has ever made you feel small or scared or worthless, I need you to hear my voice right now. I was you. I smiled for the cameras too. I made excuses too. I stayed too long too. But one night, a 7-year-old boy found the courage to whisper 7 words that saved us both. Mommy, don't go home tonight. Your child, your gut, your soul. Somebody is whispering to you right now. Listen. You're stronger than you know. You are worthy of mornings without fear. You are worthy of a life that doesn't require looking over your shoulder. There is a safe house bed waiting, a Marlene waiting, a Leah waiting, an entire army of survivors waiting to catch you when you jump. Pick up the phone. Walk out the door. Whisper your own 7 words tonight. I choose me and my babies. Because the fire doesn't get the final say. You do. You were born to rise. The screen fades to black with the candles still burning and the simple white text. If you need help right now, call or text 988 US. Find your local hotline at findahelpline.com. You are not alone. Then the candle goes out. The screen stays black for 5 full seconds of silence, and the only thing left is the sound of a mother and son laughing somewhere off screen, because some stories don't end in ashes, they end in light.